Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am back, continuing on with Black History Month, and this episode I'm going to be talking about Foxy Brown. So just getting right into things. Again, we have Pam Grier as our title character. This time, she's not Coffee, quote unquote. She is actually Foxy Brown. We have Antonio Vargas as her brother Link Brown, Peter Brown as Steve Elias, Terry Carter as Michael Anderson, Catherine Loader as Catherine Wall. Sid Haig shows up in this movie for a little while as a character named Hayes. And I'll end it with Bob Miner as Oscar. And once again, this film is directed by Jack Hill, who also did Coffee. And the synopsis for this movie is: a voluptuous black vigilante takes a job as a high-class prostitute to get revenge on the mobsters who murdered her boyfriend. I mean, the plot, it pretty much is that simple, and everything. But getting right into talking about this movie, where the movie opens with this very James Bond-ish type of opening sequence where we getting different images and everything of Pam Grier as Foxy Brown. Jack Hill does a great job of insinuating all of Pam Grier. Some for better or for worse. In this movie too, you just got random characters just filling Pam Grier up, and it's like, what is this? Like this is what we're really doing, and everything, which is kind of insane that you get men, even a woman, even I think feels her up, and it's like, what? Like, wait a minute, like what is happening right now? So, like I said, we get that opening scene, opening credit scene, and then the movie starts with Link. He's walking down the street at night, and he notices that he's being followed by this car, and he's kind of freaked out a little bit because he realizes the two goons that's basically following him down. So he goes over to this food stand, and he kind of chilling out as he's watching as these dudes are pretty much about to walk up and about to beat the holy hell out of him. But they have to stop when a police car pulls up, because they stop and the cops get out and they decide to get something to eat too. So this kind of gives him a little time to go over to a payphone. Like, what the hell's a payphone? Because you don't see payphones no more. So anybody that doesn't remember ever seeing a payphone probably like, what the hell is that thing? This ancient thing that doesn't exist anymore, right? So he goes over and he calls Foxy, who we find out is his sister. And he's basically like, look, like these goons, they here, they ready to whoop my ass. But the only thing that's stopping them right now is these cops. And I don't know how long these cops going to be here. So I need you to come get me. So Foxy, she reluctantly, get up and get dressed and everything. And she goes. And so she leaves and everything. So Link, he is pretty much like trying to play it cool and sitting next to the cops and everything. And the cops, they end up getting up and getting ready to leave, and he's still just trying to cling on to have them stick around just a little bit longer, because the dudes, they looking like, yeah, like, so the cops we gonna be in your ass, brother, type of thing. So the cops pull off, and they pretty much like try to get him in the middle of the street and block him from two different ways, so he can't really get away. But he sees off in the distance, because Foxy told him that when she sees him, she gonna flash a light, so he'll know that it's her. So he sees down the street, she come pulling up and she flashes the lights, and she sees one of the guys on the sidewalk. So she drives onto the sidewalk, runs him over and everything, runs around, speeds around, runs over the other dude, and I don't know what the hell Link was really thinking in this moment, but instead of him jumping inside the car, he jumps on the hood of the car. So she takes off, and one of the goons, he ends up jumping on the hood of the car, and the other one comes and he jumps on the back. So all three of these dudes is literally on top of this car as she's driving. She's like, I can't see. So she takes them, and luckily she ends up dumping both of them off the car, and they go falling into the water. And Foxy and Link, they get away and get back to her place. So back at her place is where we find out that Link had got mixed up with Steve and Catherine, who were basically like drug dealers, prostitution, pretty much anything like in the underworld in the city. They're like at the head of it. And actually Catherine more so than Steve is, which I'll talk about that a little bit later. So Foxy's like, look, like, you my brother, I love you. You can stay with me, but you gonna lay low. And while you stay with me, my rule is that you gonna stay the hell away from them people. And he reluctantly agrees to this. So thinking like, all right, everything gonna be cool after this and everything. So we actually get to see Steve and Catherine and everything, because they're talking to the two goons and they trying to figure out how the hell did Link get away when they supposedly had this man dead to rights. But somebody, came up and saved him basically. And one goon was like, well, I think it was a broad. And it's like, oh, so you let a woman come and basically foil y'all from taking out this dude. And this is where we find out that Catherine, played by Catherine Loder, is actually the one that's in charge of everything, which back at that time, you didn't really get that a lot. You didn't get where a woman was the one, was the big bad villain. Generally, if you was going to have like a man and woman kind of overseeing things, the man would be the one in charge, not the woman. So kind of have to give it to Jack Hill for that, for putting the woman, in charge of the whole operation. And how did she get in charge? That's one of the questions that I had watching this. Like, I feel like there was a story to be told there of how this woman became, the big bad, basically the queen pin of the city in a way, and everything. So Foxy, she goes to the hospital to see her boyfriend, who we find out, was a federal agent. And before the events of the movie, he was attacked and ended up in the hospital. So they basically gave him plastic surgery and everything, so he wouldn't look how he used to look, in order to keep his true identity, a secret. So she goes to see him. His face is all bandaged up. He's looking like the damn mummy, basically. And she comes in and, okay, I feel like this is like some wild stuff to do. Like, this man is asleep in the bed. Foxy comes in, sees him sleep, and she proceeds to start kissing all over him. And it appears that she is going down on him. And it's like, what is happening right now? Like, anybody can literally walk in this room and just see what's going on. Be like, hey, what the hell? This is not what we do in here, type of thing. So he wakes up and he's, of course, happy to see her. And everything. So basically he done got all aroused and everything. So he's like, hey, close these curtains right here. So, and come on over here, cause it's something that I ain't had in a while. So she agrees to it, cause she ain't had none in a while either, apparently. So she ends up getting on top of him. The nurse comes in. She pulls the curtain open. It's like, Mr. Anderson, this is not what we do here and everything. And she doesn't tell Foxy to leave. She almost don't act as if Foxy even exists, really. She's just going off on him. And she sees that he's hard and everything. It's like, and we definitely don't, tolerate that in here. And she basically, cause she was there to give him a bath. So she started, scrubbing him down and started, basically praying type of thing. Cause she's a very religious person, it seems. And it was just a funny scene of how that plays out. And it's just like, so this is what we do in the hospital? Like, we been basically trying to have sex in the hospital like that and don't think nobody gonna come in. At least, if you gonna do something like that, at least lock the door. Don't just do it and the door's unlocked. But, so after all of that happens and everything, we get to see where, Michael's boss comes in. He's there as well as the doctor, and they're taking the bandages off his face, and we don't know exactly what he looked like before. So it's basically, okay, we see him for the first time, but apparently with how he looks now is completely different than what he looked before. So they just tell him like, okay, just you have to take it easy for a while. Don't get in any fights for a few months, with your new face. And the doctor, he gets up and leaves. So his boss tells him like, well, you're out now, and, thank you for your services. You get to go live, a normal life and everything away from all the madness, even though you wasn't able to bring down, Catherine and Steve, because that's who he actually was investigating, was Catherine and Steve. But he ended up getting taken out in a sense. So he's kind of upset about that, but he's retired now. But at the same time, he's like, well, I got some other things to take care of, and basically looking at Foxy the whole time, which she's happy about. So everything seems to be, be going pretty normal for them. After that, they end up leaving the hospital, and as they're walking down the street, they witness dude named Oscar who has a crutch, and he's walking across the street, and he sees this dude, and we get like this crazy drawn out fight sequence between him, this other guy, and it looks like they are going after this dude that's like a drug dealer. And the drug dealer pushes this woman's baby carriage out into the middle of the road, which forces Oscar to stop trying to fight and go after the baby. And then they come back and they basically get into a whole thing. And as the dude is literally beating the hell out of Oscar and this other dude, and is about to get away. And as he's running across the street back towards the way where Foxy and Michael are, Foxy, she kicks over the trash cans, which makes him trip and fall over him, which allows Oscar to catch up to him and beat dude up. And they end up taking him away. And we find out that Oscar is not a cop, but he is one of the leaders of a community coalition that, is against, the drug dealers and people like that. And even though the cops can't always get to them, but the coalition pretty much does what the cops can't do. So there's a message in there about, that whole thing, which they don't really go too deep into, but there is a little message in there about this organization that Oscar works with. So while all this is happening, Link, who he just can't stay away from his old life. And when Foxy brings Michael home and everything, they introduce him and everything. And Michael asks if he doesn't know who he is, because he knows who he is as his former identity and because he looks different. So there's nothing really made up. But Link is really no good in the sense that he figures out that Michael is really the old boyfriend who was a undercover fed. So he feels that the best thing for him to do is to call Catherine and tell them who Michael really is, because that's going to allow him to get back in their good graces. And it's like, these people are trying to kill you, fool. So by you telling them this, you think that's going to, erase all the nonsense that you done pull under them. And even later on, Foxy even tells him that. But they like, okay, all right, we hear what you're saying. And they actually decide, okay, we're going to send the goons to go after him and everything. So Foxy isn't around, and Michael, he's walking down the street. He's basically on his way coming back home. Foxy gets home before he does, and she sees where Link had been kind of looking at a newspaper clipping of Michael's former identity. I forgot exactly what the character's name was, but he kind of was drawing over his face, like basically trying to make it look more like Michael. And she figures out like that's what he did. So she's like, oh, Link, no. And Michael, right as Michael is basically about to come inside, the goons that was following him, they shoot him twice in the back, and he falls into Foxy's arms and he dies right there. And I always kind of get the sense that now I'm not sure if this was done on purpose, but I just got the sense that because it made me think about how Medgar Evers was killed, where he was literally shot in his front yard. And it kind of just put me in the mind frame of that. Like I said, again, I don't know if Jack Hill and the writer, and everybody, if that was the idea for that, but that to me is how that kind of came across. And everything, because it just made me think about that, knowing the story of how Medgar Evers was assassinated in his own front yard, which just made me think about that whole thing. So Michael is dead, which is kind of a running theme so far in these two movies that I've watched with Pam Grier, directed by Jack Hill, where it seems like Pam Grier can't never have a man. Either he get killed or he turns out to be a no good piece of shit, type of thing, and everything. So Foxy is furious, and she goes and finds Link where he shacked up with some white woman and everything, and they doing drugs, and he feel like he just living the life right now and everything. So she comes to the place and she's knocking on the door about basically she needs some help, and he has the audacity to tell her to come back later because he's busy. And it's like, did you not forget when you called her late at night talking about you need to come get me because I'm about to get beat down by these two dudes? If she would have told him, well, maybe you need to call me back later because I'm busy and everything, how he would have felt about that. But that's what he tells his sister. So she tells him about Michael being shot and killed. So he does open the door. And when he opens the door, she comes in with a gun and basically pushes him back, starts shooting at him. She's not shooting him, but she's shooting at him. He falls back over in the corner against the wall. The white lady, she's just standing there looking like, what the hell is going on? And she literally goes off on him. And she tells him that he needs to get the hell out of town. And also, who are the people that's responsible for it? So he reluctantly finally tells her about Catherine and Steve and what all that they do. So she was like, all right, good. Thank you. Like, make sure you get your ass out of town because I don't want you around here no more. So Foxy ends up leaving, and she basically decides like, okay, I'm gonna go undercover, so I can get closer to these people. And this is where she first meets Catherine, and this was an interesting scene because the way Foxy comes in, and it's funny, she's using the name Mystique again, and the reason why I say that is because I found out that Foxy Brown was supposed to be a direct sequel to Coffee, but at some point they decided to change all of that. But if you've seen Coffee before watching Foxy Brown, and with that in mind, you do kind of see there are some parallels to it, and the fact that yes, she could easily have been Coffee in this, and the whole thing about her being an undercover prostitute again, and she's using the name Mystique, or it's either Mystique or she was Misty. I can't remember which one it was, but I felt like that they called her Mystique, but she's not using that her terrible Jamaican accent, thank God, and everything. But she comes in and basically tells Catherine like, look, I know what you into and everything like that, and I just want to be a part of it because I want to be on the come up too, basically. So she's very blunt and straightforward with her, which Catherine actually likes this, and is like, all right, well, since you talk a good game, I'm going to give you a trial run. I'm going to send you out with one of our top girls, and we going to see how you handle yourself. If you handle yourself all right, then, there's going to be a permanent position here for you. So I just want to talk about Catherine Loder for a second as Catherine Wall. I don't know too much about Catherine Loder. I know this was like the last movie that she did before she passed away. And everything. And I know she was supposed to be in the movie Claudine, playing the Claudine role that Diane Carroll ended up playing. And she was like one of these, star actresses of this era, in the Blaxploitation films and everything. But unfortunately, terminal illness is what cut her life and career short, unfortunately. But I do have to say that she was a very good actress. And everything, because again, you in movies like this, you don't see, a woman, being the strong big bad of the movie, and everything. I mean, years later in a more current time, yeah, you would get stuff like that. But back in the the early 70s, late 70s, you wasn't really getting stuff like that. I mean, they would play a villain, but they wasn't like the main villain. And Catherine Wall is the main villain, but I thought she was dope in this movie. Even though she's no good, but I thought she was still a dope actress, and everything. So Catherine tells Foxy like to come to our house and I get you set up with wardrobe and then we're gonna sing you out. So Foxy does come to the house and she's talking with some other people, one of the other girls, getting them ready for their night. And Steve is sitting over at the table when Foxy walks in. And this man is in a freaking blender when Foxy comes in, because she goes upstairs with this other girl who's going to fit her for a dress to wear. Steve is being real slick. He gets up from the table, walks over like he's paying attention to what Catherine doing, but he's constantly cutting his eyes upstairs to see who is this new chick. I'm like, well, what she got going on? Basically, is how he doing. And Catherine sees this and she kind of gets furious about that, because we find out that her and Steve are actually a thing, and that Steve is her man and only her man, and nobody gets in the way of that, and everything. So Foxy gets paired up with one of the other girls, Claudine, and they are about to leave when this scene that comes up here is just kind of random also, because we find out that Claudine has a husband and a son, and they actually show up at the house, and Claudine is like, she's happy to see her son, and the husband is basically telling her like, look, this is the last time you're going to see him because we going to be moving and everything, and we won't be around. So she starts like, well, I want to see my son. He's like, well, why you all, getting all hyped about this now? Like, you haven't really seen him for the last 6 months, but now all of a sudden, cause I'm telling you, we moving, like, oh, now I want to see him. So while this whole commotion is going on, Steve and Eddie comes outside and they see what's going on. And the husband's like, I'm not afraid of you and all this. And he punches Steve, knocks him into the damn garage. And Eddie ends up getting hold to the husband, and then they start beating on him and everything. And Catherine comes out. She's just looking. And Claudine goes up like, oh, Miss Wall, I didn't know he was going to show up here. I didn't know this and everything. Catherine just looking like, uh-huh. And it's like, basically get him the hell out of here and get that kid out of here too. So, and like I said, I just don't understand why exactly that scene was there, because it really doesn't go anywhere really-ish. Because we do get this whole pairing of Foxy with Claudine. They go to this hotel because they're going to meet with Judge Fenton. And the whole thing is how they're able to get politicians and people in their pocket is because they outsource these girls to these people and have them do sexual favors, which allows them to do favors for Catherine and Steve and everything. So they get the judge, and the judge, of course, he's in a blender, because not only do he have Catherine, he got Foxy too, and he decides to go in a room with both of them. And it plays out almost like a comedy, because they get the judge, they get him undressed, get him down on the bed, and then they start talking about his dick, about it being small, and how is he supposed to do anything with that and everything? And he looking like, wait a minute, we supposed to be having a good time, y'all standing here roasting me pretty much and everything. So instead of them having sex with him, they basically get him halfway naked, because he has his shirt and his undershirt on, but he ain't got no pants or no boxers. So he half naked, and they end up tricking him and pushing him outside on his back, literally out the door into the hallway, where these women literally coming around the corner. They see him. So he gets up and he's trying to back away from him. As he's backing away, he bumps into this lady that's coming out of her room. She starts yelling like crazy. The women start seeing him, so they see that he half dressed and it almost looks like he's attacking this woman. So he pushes the woman down. He's backing away from those ladies that's coming after him. Somebody's coming out of one of the people that work at the hotel. They're coming out the room with the food tray. He trips and falls over that which allows the women to catch up to him. They literally beat the hell out of him. The one lady that was leading them, she got an umbrella, so who knows where she stuck that umbrella on his ass. But yeah, so that's what they end up doing with the judge. So back in the hotel room, Claudine, she starts laughing and everything, and basically like, yeah, you know what they gonna do to us and everything, like they gonna beat our ass and all this type of. Foxy's like, no, they not. Like, everything gonna be good. She's like, oh, you don't know Catherine Wall like you think. And it's just like, everything is gonna be all right. So I'm gonna get you to a safe place. So, okay, so there's like something that's missing, because it goes from where they supposed to have left the hotel, but it seemed like time jumps. So there had to be something that was cut here, and everything. And because the next time we see Claudine, she's in this, I guess it's a lesbian bar. It looks like, and everything, because this one chick, she comes over and she tells this other lady to move away from Claudine and starts talking to her like she trying to hook up with her, because the bartender had told the woman to come over because I guess she recognized Claudine, and basically like, oh, we're going to try to keep her here as long as possible, because I'm going to call Steve, and everything, so he can come and get her. So while she's doing that, Foxy, who had been home and everything, she comes out and she goes and she ends up showing up at the bar, and she sees where the woman is talking to Claudine. So she comes over, like, all right, time to go. And the woman gets all in Foxy's face, like, what do you think you doing and everything. So they start, running mouth back at each other, and we get this big brawl because the woman gonna tell Foxy, so I got a black belt in karate and everything. So she get in her fight stance. Foxy gets a bar stool, knocks her ass out, and say, I got a black belt in bar stool and everything. So as they get ready to leave, some of these other women walks up on Foxy. It's like, we're not gonna let you just beat up our friend and think you're gonna walk up out of here. So you get this whole fight that goes on. Foxy is beating the hell out of these women and getting up out of there. So again, kind of going back to the whole coffee thing, where you got the whole brawl in the hotel room at the party. You get this brawl in this bar here, and it's just almost like a comedy thing as they find their way out the side door. And as they coming out the side, about to go around to the front, Steve and his goons show up. They see Foxy and Claudine around the side of the building, chase after them. This damn bum comes out of nowhere and actually is an ally, because he actually attacks the goons that was trying to get them and everything. They pushes him out the way, and Foxy gives enough time for Claudine to try to get away, and she ends up getting caught by Eddie and the other gun. I forgot what his name was supposed to be, but she cut one on across the face, and right when they're about to cut her on the face, Steve shows up and is like, no, Catherine doesn't want her hurt, so they just knock her out, and they take her back to Catherine's place, and they are basically torturing her for information. And that's the last time we see Claudine. So it's like that whole storyline of her, it just really kind of went nowhere, in a sense. So instead of Catherine telling them to kill Foxy, she basically says, we're going to dope her up with some heroin, send her to the farm, and then from there, probably send her to one of the islands, and she can earn back the money and everything that she's cost us, basically. So Foxy gets sent to this farm where these two no good rapist dudes are. I don't even know what the hell they was doing there or anything, but she's there knocked out, and she wakes up on the bed, and she tries to creep out because she sees the one dude sleep on the couch. So she creeps outside. She sees the other one dressed like a mechanic around the side of the building working on a car or something. And while she's tipping, the one that was sleeping inside, he comes out, and he ends up wrapping, like throwing a whip around her neck, gets her, brings her back inside, and they tie her up, and then they shoot her with some more heroin, and then they proceed to rape her. So after that happens, she wakes up again, and this time she ends up getting the best of them, and because she ends up siphoning some gasoline from outside into a canister inside the house, and she ends up beating them up. Well, she cuts the one dude across the face, so he's blind, he can't see anything. The other one comes running inside. She tosses the gasoline on him, lights the place on fire. The one that's with the gasoline on him, he goes up in flames, dives out the window. The place is literally burning down. She ends up getting out of there, and the two of them end up dead. So Steve and Catherine, they find out that the place has been burned down, and Steve's like, the two idiots probably burned the place down, but Catherine's like, no, it was that woman, because she wasn't nowhere to be found and everything. So basically now it's all about, okay, we gotta find out exactly where she is. So Steve, Eddie, and the other goon, they go looking for Foxy, and they find Link, who never left town like Foxy told him to do. So they pull up on him and they bust in on the place because he's still with that same white woman. And Steve has this sawed-off shotgun, and as he's interrogating Link, he accidentally shoots him. And then Link, he kind of like shuffles around, he falls on the floor, shuffling around, and then he ends up going over by the bed, falls over and falls down on the floor. Steve shoots him again, he's dead. And then Eddie proceeds to take the white woman and slit her throat. So Link is gone, and his white woman is out the picture too. So if he would have listened to Foxy like he was supposed to, he just might would have lived. But at the same time, it's kind of a good thing he did, because what he did regarding Michael was nonsense. And like, how do you do that to your sister also? Type of thing. So now we get where Oscar, he tells Foxy about Link. So she's kind of furious about this. I mean, even though she know her brother was no good, he still was her brother. So she's furious about this. So she gets with Oscar, and they come up with a plan and he brings in his coalition to help her about bringing down Catherine's whole operation. So Foxy goes to this bar, and this is where we meet Sid Haig. Sid Haig in this movie is relatively a non-factor. Unlike his character of Omar from Coffee, who was like one of the goons. In this, he's not a goon. This is probably like the only time in a movie that Sid Haig is virtually somewhat of a good guy. I mean, besides this in Galaxy of Terror. Galaxy of Terror. You know what? That might be a movie I actually review one day. Galaxy of Terror, because that movie is crazy. But in here, look, like I've said to certain people before, Sid Haig back in the 70s, he could have easily passed for being a light-skinned black man. And in this, he has that big floppy hat. He got the beard. He got the drip once again, and everything in this movie. Cause he's there talking with these women and everything. And then he looks over the bar and he sees Foxy, and it's like, oh, the hell with y'all. Let me go talk to this one over here and everything. So the two of them start talking, and that's when we find out that he's a pilot. So she uses him to fly to another hideout that Catherine has and everything. So while they're there, Hayes, that is Sid Haig's character name, Hayes, he gets out and he's talking to one of the goons and everything. And this allows Foxy to get in basically the driver's seat of the plane. She's not trying to fly. She just is driving it literally. And she's coming towards Sid Haig and the other goon. And Hayes, he's like, hey, what are you doing? So he jumps out of the way because he ain't trying to get chopped up by the damn propeller. So he jumps out of the way, drops all his papers and everything, and he's just scrambling around. And that's the last time we see him. It's like I said, he is virtually a non-factor in this movie. I kind of don't understand why exactly he was in the movie, and everything. I guess he just like working with Jack Hill and Pam Grier. So it was like, yeah, sure, why not, type of thing. So she ends up chasing down the one goon, and she ends up chopping his ass up with the propeller and everything. So he's out of there. And then she continues driving to where the money man and another goon is inside, crashing into them, killing them and everything. And Oscar and his coalition, they show up. and they kill a couple other goons, and they get Steve, and they proceed to kill Steve. So, Foxy ends up coming back to Catherine's house, and she walks in, just casually walks in with a bag and everything. And Eddie and another goon is there, and as she's walking in to confront Catherine, Eddie like hoists her up and everything, and the other goon grabs her. And again, this is what I'm talking about, the whole thing of why people like just filling her up, because okay, yes, he's checking her to see if she got any weapons, but then he starts like about to fill up her breast and everything. But I think that was Pam Grier saying knock it off type of thing, like we not doing that right now and everything, because the way she says it, it's like, yeah, that's not Foxy Brown talking, that's Pam Grier saying, look, I don't want to be felt up right now type of thing. So he doesn't fill her up this time, and they take the bag, he opens it, and he looks, and it's like, so Catherine's like, what is that? Like, what's in there? He's like, well, it looks like it's a pickle jar or something. So like, what? Bring it over here. So she gets it, and she holds it up, and she looks at it, and she realized that it's Steve's dick. They cut his dick off and put it in a pickle jar. And she's like, Steve. And so she ends up dropping it and breaking it. It smashes on the floor. Foxy at this point, because she got a huge afro, she had a little gun in her afro. So she takes out, she kills Eddie, and she shoots the other goon dead. And then she proceeds to shoot Catherine, but she doesn't kill her. And Catherine is like, why don't you just kill me and everything? And she tells her, like, I don't want to kill you. I want you to suffer and everything. So she ends up leaving, and she goes and gets in the car with Oscar, and they have like a laugh about them bringing down, this crime organization. And that's how the movie ends. Yeah, this movie is relatively quick, and everything. And like I said, it's very straightforward. And like I said, you can look at it as being parallel with Coffee. Because like I said, you watch Coffee and then you watch Foxy Brown, you definitely can tell, like, yeah, this was supposed to be a sequel. But they didn't want this to be a sequel to Coffee. So at the last minute, Jack Hill just kind of made a few changes and made it Foxy Brown, and everything. If I had to rate the movie out of 5 Afro weeks, I would give it a solid 3. I think Coffee is a little bit better overall of a movie. This one's still enjoyable as well. I mean, it's Pam Grier doing her thing and everything. And I did like the fact that the character of Catherine Wall was the main villain here, especially during a time where you didn't see stuff like that. But like I say, it's still enjoyable watch. It's a fast watch. Also, like I said, the movie moves very quick. It gets straight to the point and everything, which I enjoy that. Especially with movies like this back at that time. If I had to pick a favorite character that is not Pam Grier as Foxy Brown, I probably would go with Catherine Loder as Catherine Wall, because like I said, I just enjoyed her playing the big bad. She has a presence about her. Like I said, I feel like there should have been a little bit more backstory about her, but I get it. You don't really need it. Just know that she's the woman in charge and all these men work for her type of thing, and everything. So yeah, I want to thank you all again for listening to this episode. I'll be back for episode 368, excuse me. But you can follow me across all social medias on Threads, Instagram. You can follow on Instagram at JMT Podcast, as well as my personal page. Same thing with Threads. You can follow my personal page, The J Giles. Of course, you can find all of the Movie Talk episodes, a part of the TV Zone Podcast Network, wherever you listen to your podcast at. And also, too, if you are listening on YouTube, you can go to the YouTube channel as well. That's J Movie Talk over on YouTube. And if you are listening on YouTube, comment down below your thoughts about Foxy Brown, your favorite characters, what you like about the movie. Pam Grier as a 70s icon action star, and do we have a modern equivalent to Pam Grier as far as a action star that's beautiful and sexy, the same way Pam Grier was back in the day? Like I say, if you're listening on YouTube,
on YouTube, comment that down below. Also, if you listen on Spotify, you can comment on the episode as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. I will be back, like I said, for episode 368 to wrap up Black History Month, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.